Hey, this is John Monson with Rural Ruckus Radio and Podcast, and today we've got a special guest, a special friend, somebody I've known for a while, and I think is going to bring some excellent insight to sort of the state of politics today. Sort of a dangerous subject at times, but I want to talk to somebody who's been a leader, somebody who knows how to govern, somebody who knows how to bring somebody together, people together with different points of view, somebody who has demonstrated leadership at the highest level in this state of Minnesota, and that's Steve Sviggum. And although on the golf course you take me for every dollar that I have, and suddenly you're an entitled leader, that's what I would say. Now all of a sudden that's okay with you. It doesn't even matter, right? No conservative left in you.
You are very kind in life, and you are very kind in the golf course.
Yeah, I noticed that.
You're a giver. There are those that are takers and those that are givers.
I noticed this. Yeah, I really am. Well, anyways, thanks for coming, Steve. So Steve Sviggum, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? What are you doing right now?
Oh, well, there's not much about me. I've never going to retire in my life. I just think retirement is overrated. So I farm. I farm corn, soybeans, beef cattle with my nephews and my brothers. Involved in the local community and local church. And of course, still involved a little politically. Not near as much as I was 20 years ago.
Yeah, right.
But it was my life 20 years ago. But I enjoyed it tremendously. And John, people are astounded when I say this, but I'd like to be back again. Even as harsh as it is these days, even as difficult it is for people to get together on the radical ends, of course, I probably wasn't on either of those ends. I do miss it.
How long were you Speaker of the House of Minnesota?
8 years.
8 years. Yeah, and there were some pretty rough situations then too, right?
Yeah, there were. We always think nowadays how tough it is, and compromise is difficult, and there's lots of problems that are probably beyond our scope. When we look back to the good old days, but I'll tell you, the good old days were not always as good as we thought they were. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had difficulties there too. We had problems with negotiations and problems trying to get together in bills. But at the end of the day, we tried to come together and compromise. And I had a counterpart. You might remember the name Roger Moe.
I sure do.
In the Senate. Good man, Democratic leader of the Senate. And we'd fight tooth and nail with the governor or whichever governor it might be. But afterwards, we'd be friends.
Yeah. How many governors did you serve under?
And when I was Speaker, I just served under 2. But the entire time in the legislature, I must have served under 7.
Yep.
Starting with Al Queen.
So you were the poster child for term limits.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
We have term limits every November.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point.
Every November, election day, the second Tuesday, we have term limits.
Right, exactly. No, but anyways, you served as a leader, and I recall that very, very well. A leader who believed in governing. That was a responsibility.
You are elected to govern. You are not elected to necessarily just to shut government down. To come together. And, kind of funny thing in life, politics as much as life, you don't always get everything the way you want it. With my wife at home, a wonderful person, a lover, John, Deb, but I don't always get it my way.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to cooperate and compromise. And that sometimes it makes both sides of the aisle upset, your own side, in my case, Republicans maybe felt I compromised too much once in a while, and the Democrats probably thought I was too harsh and too hard, and compromised too hard, negotiated too hard. So you got to bring people together.
So you probably struck a balance.
Balance is a good word. Yeah. I like the word balance. I think that's good. I'm a fairly conservative person, but I do believe that balance is important in life.
Yeah. So you look at the state of politics today. You see that there's a lot of ideological differences between each extreme, whether it's at the state level, whether it's at the federal level. It's very extreme. It's very challenging. How can you lead through an environment like that? How do you bring people together?
You have to rise above the radical ends, rise above the noise that is out there. Now, that doesn't always work well for Democrats getting endorsed, as you know. Very, very liberal Democrats in Minneapolis, St. Paul are being challenged and losing their endorsements because they're not liberal enough. Mm-hmm. The same might be true of a number of Republicans in rural Minnesota. But I think a strong leader is able to convey to the constituencies the reasons, the ideologies, the thoughts behind coming together and move on. The governing is not easy, but it's the best choice we have in this entire world as far as governing in a free democracy as we have.
Yeah.
You got to compromise once in a while.
You do. So it feels to me like bipartisanship, the word compromise, the word governing aren't necessarily favorable terms anymore.
Compromise is not a bad word. It's part of life. It's part of life. Yes, it's in the political game itself. It is sometimes a negative. It sometimes is, no doubt. But I also think that there's no way you can govern. You can't come together unless you each give and take a little bit.
Yeah. So you even worked at the Humphrey Institute.
Yeah, I taught school. I taught at the Humphrey Institute.
With who?
Well, with Larry Jacobs was the
right.
head of the Humphrey School at that
Tim
time.
Penny?
Tim was there. Yep.
Yeah. Of different parties.
In fact, I was in one of Tim's classes. I spoke in one of his classes.
Yeah.
So he was. I was a adjunct professor. Mm-hmm. Sometimes a legislative fellow. I would kind of fill two different roles. And I think Tim was an adjunct professor himself when he was there. So it just meant we weren't on the tenure track.
Right.
Which was okay with me.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I don't want to be on any tenure track.
But you got along pretty well, didn't you? With Tim.
Oh, with
for
Tim?
example.
Oh, very well.
Yeah. And he was a Democrat.
When we served, of course, in the legislature
right.
together. He was in the Senate. I was in the House, but we even carried a couple bills together. I think one was involving railroad annexations. It involved railroads for southern Minnesota agriculture. And so, no, Tim was there, but I enjoyed that at the university a lot. It was, I think we had 29 professors or adjuncts at the Humphrey School, and I was the token conservative.
Well, that happens sometimes, I understand. And you've got your Minnesota shirt on. You were also a regent.
Yes.
Yeah. For how many years?
Regent for 7 at the university. Enjoyed that a lot too. Mm-hmm. It was a situation where obviously, again, I didn't agree with everything. The university tends to be a very liberal atmosphere at times. Mm-hmm. And I certainly didn't agree with everything that was taking place, but obviously you try to, again, lead the state in the right direction, in a direction where people get different views, different ideas, and then they get to make their own decisions.
So a diversity of perspective actually brings strength to the final outcome. People bring their different views, and ultimately, hopefully, you end up with a better result.
John, I think you're right. I think a diversity of opinion is good. It strengthens the final product. Let me add this, as long as they agree with me at the end.
Right on. Yeah, exactly. Well, I already know that from golf. Exactly. Yeah. We disagree constantly, and I always end up paying you a buck. But anyways, it's good to know. I liked hearing about the ability to rise above. That's what leaders absolutely have to do. And I see as I watch, and I think we all see this, and I think we may all agree with one side or the other. But at the end of the day, it's the job of the leaders ultimately to get something done. What kind of advice or counsel would you provide? A lot of the legislators who are into a lot of hyperbole, one way or the other. What would you tell them today?
My way or the highway.
My way or the highway. Yeah, exactly. What would you tell them today in order to help get things done or maybe change perspective?
Advice. Advice is a tough thing to come by. First of all, I will tell you that I think I held leadership a lot because of an ability to get along with people, to respect, to act civilly, to have civility in your discussions. I think I would give that advice to potential persons who want to run for office or maybe be leaders is the civility part of it, the respectful part of it. The way you carry yourself, I think, is very, very important. Now, I was at a time 20 years ago where times were different than they are now. And very, very honestly, there are those who say, Sviggum, all you did was hug your way to leadership. Because I like people, okay?
Yeah, you do.
And probably now, 20 years later, with the atmosphere as it is, You can't go around hugging people all the time, men or women.
Right, good point.
I was an equal opportunity hugger, by the way. So, that certainly was an avenue that I took at that time, just generally caring about and liking people.
Yep. And that's sort of at the core of it all. And so you're a Christian man. I know that. I know you're a church-going man, and I am too. And I think at the heart of it is, we're commanded to love one another, I think first and foremost. And I think that we take that seriously in our relationships with other people. And it feels like it's lacking. It feels like it's missing from time to time. And it just feels like if we treat each other respectfully, as we should, it just changes outcomes. But I think there's a level of disrespect at times for those that disagree with us. And sometimes they become the bigger enemy almost. And that's sometimes how it feels. Anyways, it's hard to watch all of that. So what was one of the largest or biggest disagreements that you can recall with Roger Moe that you had? And how in the world did you overcome it? Was it related to budget?
I would guess it probably was. I'm trying to remember what it may have been. There may have been some disagreements over social disagreements as well. Some of the social issues, which are
still pretty big today.
Abortion. You can go on from there. We had disagreements about that. Probably about the taxing philosophy. I had a philosophy that you tax for the services you need to provide. And in Minnesota, because of our Constitution, you got to balance the budget. So if you spend $1, you got to raise $1. I did not think you should tax to redistribute income. I don't think that's government's role. That's not government's job. So there's differences probably that existed there. Roger was a Norwegian teacher, wrestling coach, by the way, from northwestern Minnesota, and I was a Norwegian teacher, basketball coach from southeastern Minnesota. So he would always laugh. We both have the same background, but we come out differently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So you guys, you disagreed, but how in the world?
We disagreed, but we still afterwards would be friends.
Right.
In fact, very honestly, Roger and his wife, a Democrat leader, myself, Republican leader, and my wife, we were both invited by King Harald of Norway to go to Norway and speak to Parliament, to be with Parliament and our National Guard members in Norway. And so we traveled together.
That's fantastic. No, that's good. So you have...
And, let me also add this. If you know someone's family, if you know someone's upbringing and where they're coming from, and you know their children a little bit, you know their lifestyles, it's harder to be harsh to them. It really is.
That's actually a really good insight. That's a really good insight. Getting to know people is what that'll do to you. Creates a trust as well and a loyalty, just to the person first and foremost.
Good man he was.
Yeah.
But enough about northwestern Minnesota.
No, but that's good. No, that's actually good. I think that's excellent advice. We see so much that's happening right now all over the world. We see so much that's happening here in this country and so on. And so we have a focus outside of this country. There's a focus inside this country. So there's a lot going on one way or the other, and everybody seems to come down the same way no matter what, regardless of what happens. So is there an opportunity for people to look at the issues by issue, or does everybody need to look at it through a specific political lens? How does that need to occur?
Oh boy, I'm not sure I got a good answer there, John. I wish my crystal ball was clearer than it is. Coming together sometimes means even saying I'm sorry, maybe even saying I was wrong. My wife likes to hear that from me, by the way.
I bet she does. I would like to hear that from you.
Yeah, you won't.
I know.
But there has to be a little humbleness, humility once in a while too, because we're not always all right. I believe very strongly in my conservative values, but I can also see and understand, respect a different opinion, a wrong opinion. A different opinion.
Yeah. Nope, understood. So it comes down to just knowing the person. That's really the difference. It's just getting to know one another a little bit more, respecting each other a little bit more, and I assume that people believe what they believe because they believe that's patriotic. What they believe is patriotic. We may not agree. It is or it isn't, but I think everybody wants to do right by this country. Not everybody.
I wish I could agree to that.
Yeah, and I don't know that everybody does. Yeah, I don't know that everybody does necessarily, but
John, and I don't want to disagree with you too much, but I don't think everybody has that same perspective. I wish they did. But from my perspective, there seems to be a whole lot of folks out there that seem almost willing to sell their birthright to liberty for a mess of socialistic collectivism. It almost seems to be there from my perspective. Now, I know from somebody else's perspective, they probably wouldn't see that, but that's how I see it occasionally.
Yep. No, that makes good sense. So as you look at the situation today, again, your perspective is just get to know one another, or what's your real message? What's the core message to any legislator, either side, especially those on the extreme?
Two words: respect and civility. Respect and civility.
Yeah.
And respect means you can disagree with the person. You don't always have to agree. You can disagree, but whether say disagree, but don't disagree disagreeably, or
right. Don't be disagreeable.
Yeah.
Disagree, but don't be disagreeable. That's right. Exactly right.
So those two words: respect and civility.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Steve. No, this is good insight. I do appreciate it. We've been, I think, wrestling in this country with trying to figure out how do we get along. I think you provided probably the key insight that really kind of ultimately gets it done. And I feel like people want to do these things, but they're not doing these things. And that's probably just the way it is. So who's going to take that step?
And some of us, because sometimes we only, John, listen to those we agree with, or listen to the radio we agree with, or listen to the TV station we agree with, we maybe foster and build in ourselves too much of one side and not be fully aware what a different perspective might be,
Yeah.
Sometimes, I'm sure you do, if I turn on CNN and I'll turn on Fox, I wonder if I'm listening to the same news.
Yeah, exactly. Just different world perspectives. I think the other part is that
if you only listen to CNN, you're bound to, not open to see the other side, or vice versa.
Yeah, and it feels like they're oftentimes paid to make you angry. And I don't want to live a life of anger.
Good point.
Yeah, and I think that's ultimately the big thing. But Steve, I appreciate you coming in. I do. I appreciate this conversation. I wish that we had all the keys and all the answers to it all, but I wanted to see if we could maybe open up a conversation. I don't think there's been any leader in the state, in my view, that's probably done more to try to work together and govern the way that you did. And my respect for you, despite the fact that I hate that you're going to hear this, I respect you tremendously for the leadership that you provided in our state. I know it's going to cost me $1 on the golf course.
At least.
Yeah, exactly.
So, John, this was enjoyable for me to talk about it too, about kind of philosophy or politics, our governing in a big picture.
Yeah.
I hope I can get back sometime and talk about the issues of the day too.
Right, that would be a lot more fun. You're right, to get into it. But anyways, I want to thank everybody for listening in today at Rural Ruckus Podcast. Again, this was Steve Sviggum. Thank you again, Steve, for coming in, and I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.